Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Miltech Insights. In 1999, the U.S. National Academics of Science, Engineering, and Medicine reported that USA would remain the single largest inventor of future knowledge as it remained in the 20th century in applying the yesterday's science fiction technologies like powerful mini-computers, smart machines, animal cloning, internet, and talking electronic roadmaps. Reviewing that report today, the elephant in the room it missed was China. As per the wisdom of the late 20th century, China hardly mattered. By 2010, the situation was beginning to change. China had grown into a low-cost manufacturing hub for multi-billion-dollar global giants. Today, China's rapid rise to challenge the U.S. dominance of technology has captured America's attention. As per former director of CIA, this tech rivalry is the main arena for competition between USA and China. In 2020, China produced more than 250 million computers, 25 million automobiles, and 1.5 billion smartphones, thus displacing America as world's top high-tech manufacturer. Apart from becoming the world's leading low-cost producer, China has challenged USA in the most advanced technologies of the 21st century, including quantum information science, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, 5 and 6G, green energy, and biotechnology. In some arena, China has already achieved number one status. In others, on current trajectories, it will overtake the United States of America by the end of this decade. The mastermind behind Google's technological advancement and America's most respected tech expert, Mr. Eric Schmidt, once said that many Americans still have an outdated vision of China. In his assessment, unless the existing trends change somehow by the end of this decade, the United States will be competing with a country that will have the world's largest economy, most advanced research and development infrastructure, extensive development of new technologies, and state-of-the-art knowledge base. In order to assess the progress so far made by the United States and China in each key technology of the 21st century, the Belfer Center of Science and International Affairs of Harvard Kennedy School has published a comprehensive research report recently. Let's review this assessment about the great tech rivalry between the United States of America and the People's Republic of China. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, being one of the most advanced technologies of this century, will have the greatest impact on economics and security in the decades to come. The former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, said that China is now a full-spectrum peer competitor of USA in AI. Indeed, China has already overtaken the US to become the world's undisputed number one in many fields of artificial intelligence. In speech technology, Chinese firms are beating American firms in every language, even in English. China's iFlyTech has become the world's top voice recognition platform, with 700 million users, almost twice the number of people who speak to Apple Siri. In financial technology, Chinese mobile payment service WeChat serves 900 million Chinese users compared to only 44 million users of Apple's Pay in the United States. As of today, 90% of Chinese urban population use mobile payments as primary payment method. In the year 2020, $42 trillion were spent by Chinese people through mobile payments, whereas 2/3 of Americans still rely on credit cards. Chinese spend $150 through mobile platforms for every single dollar spent by Americans. In facial recognition, there is no competition anymore. The US has essentially accepted the race because of concerns over individual privacy regarding how this technology could be deployed. On the other hand, Chinese tech giants SenseTime and Megvii have deployed cutting-edge applications like instantaneous facial recognition, which can identify a single face in a few seconds among Chinese population of 1.4 billion. Financial markets also reflect the Chinese rise in AI. A few years back, only 2 of the world's 20 most valued internet companies were Chinese. Today, 7 are Chinese. The 7 giants of the AI age include Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, are split on either side of the Pacific. Out of every $10 invested in AI in 2018, 5 went to Chinese startups and 4 to American companies. In the AI research field, China overtook the USA in 2021 for AI citations with a 35% increase from 2019. In AI's cutting-edge field of deep learning, China has 6 times more patent publications than the United States of America. 5G. Similar trends are being observed in the 5G spectrum, with increase of 100-fold in speed, 50-fold in reliability, and 10-fold in device connections. 5G promises to enable next-generation applications no one can even imagine today. By 2035, 5G will create a global economy of the size of India, the major share of which will be occupied by China. Today, China is the single largest 5G market in the world, having 87% of the world's total 5G connections. According to the Pentagon's Defense Innovation Board, China is repeating in 5G what happened with the United States in 4G. Despite having advantages in governing standards and next-generation chip designs, America's 5G infrastructure development is years behind Chinese development in this field. Thus, China is getting first-mover advantage in developing the 5G platforms. All key indicators undoubtedly support that China will dominate the 5G future. By 2020, China had 150 million 5G users as compared to America's 6 million only. China has 700,000 5G base stations, whereas America only has 50,000. Similarly, China has 460 MHz of licensed mid-band spectrum compared to America's 70 MHz. The average speed of Chinese 5G is 300 megabits per second compared to America's 60 megabits per second only. Out of the world's 5 major 5G equipment providers, 2 are Chinese and 0 are American. Over the past 2 decades, China's national tech giant, Huawei, has grown from 0% market share in telecommunications infrastructure to becoming the world's leading supplier of 5G equipment, with 28% global market share, while former American national champions Lucent and Motorola crashed from 25% in 2000 to 0% today. China is already pioneering next-generation 5G applications, including smart factory systems, digital twins for industrial applications, and the world's first 5G-enabled remote surgery. In the 4G era, Apple iPhones, Google Android operating systems, and Microsoft HoloLens were connecting users to the tech ecosystem. In today's 5G era, we are experiencing Chinese 5G-enabled networks offering ubiquitous connectivity for Xiaomi smartphones, Tencent Smart City Solutions, and Baidu robotaxis. Quantum information science. All 3 important subfields within quantum information science, including quantum computing, quantum communication, and quantum sensing, were historically led by the United States of America. But now, China is quickly catching up. Rather, in some cases, China has already overtaken America. Pioneered just 30 years ago, quantum information science is a field with potential for revolutionary advances in science and technology involving complex computations, extremely faster communication, and precision measurement. Global powers have only recently recognized that national security threats due to advancement in quantum computing, once considered hypothetical, are becoming possible. Indeed, threats like the ability to crack advanced encryptions to steal state secrets, the creation of most secure communication networks, and high-precision sensors with no dependence on space-based positioning systems may not be as far off as once thought. The existing technological revolutions had taken place when China was still a poor country. However, China's present spectacular rise has provided quantum information science with the required funds and manpower so as to become the leader in this field. That is why it is said, China is farther of quantum. In 2014, the US and China were tied in the number of quantum-related research patents and projects. In 2016, China launched a mega project aiming to make breakthroughs in quantum information science by 2030. Just 2 years later, in 2018, China passed the US by filing 52% of global quantum patents, twice the number filed by the USA. Today, China is spending 4 times more than what the US is spending on quantum information science. Google's 53-qubit Sycamore superconducting quantum computer achieved quantum supremacy in 2019. 1 year later, in December of 2020, China reached the same milestone. In the same month, a photonic quantum computer was developed by the University of Science and Technology of China, which reached quantum supremacy 10 billion times faster than Google for certain calculations in physics. And only 6 months later, a Chinese team led by Pan Jianwei created the world's most powerful superconducting quantum computer, Zuchanzi, which solved a problem 100 times more challenging than the one solved by Google's Sycamore. China's progress in quantum communication is also unprecedented. In 2016, China launched the world's first quantum communication-enabled satellite called Messias. Shortly afterward, Chinese scientists created a record-breaking quantum communication link between satellites and an Earth station having a distance of 745 miles in between. And in January 2020, China created the world's first integrated quantum communication network spanning a total distance of more than 2,800 miles, longer than the distance from New York to Los Angeles. Experts believe that Chinese government and military communications will go black in the next 2 to 3 years, which means that the United States would no longer be able to intercept any Chinese military or diplomatic communication. The third most important field of quantum integrated science is quantum sensing, which is a relatively mature field with emerging real-world capabilities. The quantum sensing has unique and most direct military applications, including the capability to nullify stealth technologies and radar jamming. Here again, Chinese is quickly paving the way to be the world's number one. In 2019, China ranked third in citations of quantum sensing after the US and Europe. However, in publications from just the last 5 years, China is ranked first in citations per paper and total publications in this field. Semiconductors. Semiconductors is a core element for modern technologies including AI, automobiles, computers, weapons, high-tech machines, and many more. That is why these are an essential general-purpose driver in the US-China tech rivalry. The United States of America retains its semiconductor dominance that it had from the last 50 years, but this position has been gradually eroded by domestic underinvestment and rising overseas competition. Although the US still leads in chip design and manufacturing inputs, its share of semiconductor fabrication has reduced from 37% in 1990 to 12% today. Meanwhile, China's decades-long efforts to become a major semiconductor producer have yielded significant results in recent years. The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company founder Morris Chang has assessed that although Beijing is not yet a competitor to US and allies, China has quickly lessened its gap in semiconductor production and design to just 1 to 2 generations behind major global players. The Belfer Center has assessed that China will become the world's largest semiconductor producer in mature technology nodes by the end of this decade, and in 15 years' time, it will be able to do everything about semiconductors by themselves. In 2000, China had the global semiconductor consumption share of less than 20%. During the last 20 years, this share has been grown to 60%. The growing domestic demand has provided both market and national security incentives to expand China's push into the semiconductor industry. China's national champion in semiconductor fabrication, the Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, has consecutively been ranked among the top 5 foundries over the past decade, and its breakthrough N+1 7nm process in 2020 means that its advanced fabrication capabilities now rival America's Intel. While China is still dependent on semiconductor imports to meet 85% of domestic demand, these recent achievements disprove the decades-long conventional wisdom that China's semiconductor industry cannot catch up. Indeed, based on best judgment, China is only 1 to 2 years behind the US and Taiwan in chip design and 5 years behind Taiwan's TSMC in fabrication. Biotechnology. Biotechnology is an emerging technology derived from discoveries in the life sciences, encompassing diverse categories like biochemistry, genomics, molecular biology, and more. Looking towards the field, the US is the undisputed leader in biotech, but China is competing fiercely across the full biotech R&D spectrum, and in some instances even winning the race. Over the past 2 decades, China has reached the top ranks of biotech basic research. From 2007 to 2017, China's biotech publications increased by 20% annually, with the second most publications after the United States. In 2019 and 2020, China overtook Germany and the UK respectively, and now ranks second in the Nature Index for high-quality life sciences research, increasing its annual output by 9%. Its research output has exceeded America's in multiple areas, including in CRISPR-modified crops and transgenic plants. China's global share of biotech patents has grown from 1% in 2000 to 28% in 2019, while the US share dropped from 45% to 27%. Today, China files more patents annually than any other country. In biomedical patents, China is ahead of USA with annual growth rate of 16% as compared to America's 3%. And in cell therapy patents, China leads in both growth rate and total patents. The Chinese genomics giant, BGI, acquired American Complete Genomics in 2013 and became the world's largest genetics research center. Today, BGI can sequence human genomes for a record-breaking cost of $100, which is 6 times less expensive than its American or European competitors and 100,000 times cheaper than the cost in 2000. The most prominent testament to China's biotech success is CAR T-cell therapy, which can modify T cells for use in immunotherapy and has potential cure for cancer. Green energy. The US had been the primary inventor of new green energy technologies over the past 2 decades. Today, China has taken the lead in manufacturing and deploying those technologies, allowing it to dominate multiple links of the green energy supply chain. China has already achieved the Made in China 2025 goal of a dominant role in this century's new industries. The expansion of green energy in the global energy mix promises to be as disruptive in the current century as oil was in the 20th century. Financial markets already indicate these trends. Clean energy investments reached $500 billion for the first time last year and will further grow to total $16 trillion by the end of next decade. China has sprinted ahead of the US and other countries to dominate the key links of the green tech supply chain, including equipment manufacturing, raw materials, and energy storage. China is now the dominant manufacturer of equipment for generating renewable energy. In the year 2000, China was producing 1% of global solar panel production. Today, China occupies 70% of the market share. On the other hand, America's global share fell from 30% in 2000 to less than 1% today. 4 of the world's top 10 wind turbine producers are Chinese. China controls 40% of the global market of wind turbines, as compared to only 12% share of the US. Today, China is the largest producer of solar and wind energy, with more than 3 times the capacity of the United States in solar and 2 times in wind. China also has a near monopoly over several of the key inputs and raw material necessary for solar panels, batteries, and other green tech, including chemical lithium with 50% of global production, polysilicon with 60%, rare earth metals with 80%, natural graphite with 70%, cobalt refining with 80%, and rare earths refining with 95% of global production. And where China lacks resources domestically, it has secured them overseas. Chinese companies have acquired 8 of the 14 largest cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the largest producer of cobalt. China has 30% of global output and a 51% stake in the world's largest lithium reserves. Meanwhile, the US imports 40% of its lithium, 80% of its cobalt, 95% of rare earth elements, and 100% of its graphite. It could take 20 to 30 years just for the US to catch up with China in sourcing raw materials for green energy. In energy storage, China controls 80% of battery raw material refining, 77% of cell capacity, and 60% of battery component manufacturing. Chinese manufacturer cattle have come from nothing to being world leader in less than 10 years. On the other hand, the US is in 6th place. Over the next 10 years, and around 75% of new lithium battery plants will be built in China. And as the world's largest producers of hydrogen, China and the EU both lead in green hydrogen development. China and the EU collectively spend $2 billion annually in green energy R&D, which is more than 10 times the US Department of Energy's $150 million annual allocation. In sum, although the US has led the past half-century of technological innovation and still retains dominance in several other technological fields, China has emerged as a serious peer competitor in the foundational technologies of the 21st century and is likely to be the leader in these by the end of this decade. The applications of these technologies will be transformative in areas from intelligence and military power to economic growth and governance. Please like, share, and subscribe for more updates.